after the webinar. And welcome to Building Custom Fields in Sugar. This is admin training. So Kevin Cook, take it away.
Okay, thank you so much, Sonia. Please do interrupt with any questions that folks have. I've logged into my instance of Sugar here as this person named Emily Winters. Emily's an admin. The first thing you notice is you have to be an admin to do what we're about to do. Whatever you want to call it, to do things with custom fields, you have to be an admin. So this really is only for people who have admin access to your instance of Sugar. I went to my admin page, and we're going to scroll down to the Developer Tools section of the admin page, and you'll see there's quite a few here, quite a few different kinds of tools. The Developer Tools work together. It's not all just one place. Primarily, we're going to be in Studio for dealing with custom fields. But you're also going to have, you're going to do things with custom fields in the Module Builder. Although we won't get in that today, that's for a different day. You may reference you may reference custom fields you build in the Studio inside custom fields you build in the Module Builder. The other place we're going to see a lot of today is the drop-down editor. The drop-down editor and the Studio work closely together to help you with custom fields. Okay, let's erase all of our pictures. I'm clicking on the Studio now, and we'll go into the Studio editor. Studio is where you create and manage all of your customizations in your existing instance of Sugar. The Module Builder I referenced earlier is for making customizations that aren't necessarily in this instance of Sugar. If you ever expect to be making customizations, custom fields, or whatnot, and you need to put them in other instances of Sugar, then you should consider the Module Builder. There's ways to get your customizations outside of the Studio, but we're not going to really talk about that today. Today, it's just the Studio and adding custom fields inside Studio. Most people are going to be fine with that. Your screen may not look exactly like this because you may have a different version of Sugar, but you also may have other modules. If you build custom modules and insert them or deploy them into this instance, then you'll see your custom model only out-of-the-box modules. If you look on the left-hand side, you'll see a list of all the modules you have access to. There are some modules that you won't have access to. Users module, for instance, is only recently added to Sugar. I'm going to, for ease and convenience, add some custom fields to the Contact module. You don't have to do it this way, but I like to expand the left-hand view, the left-hand pane. So I selected the Contacts module. I expanded it. And you can see I've got some child menu items to take me to labels, fields, relationships, even layouts. We're going to do most of our work today in fields and layouts. I'm going to click on the Fields link, and it'll take me to a list of all the fields that are inside the Contacts module. Now, it's important to note here that if you see a field that's got a star or an asterisk next to it, that means that this was built as a custom field. So these three fields here are custom fields. Everything else is out of the box. I'm going to look at the favorite ice cream flavor field to show you what we did with it. This is a field that's related to this individual, whatever individual we'd be talking about, to a contact. It's called the favorite ice cream flavor. I can set the display label. I'm going to cancel this and create a field from scratch. To do so, I hit Add a Field. Here's the same screen we were just looking at, but this time it's blank. I've got lots of pseudo data types. I call this a pseudo data type because these really are not data types. If there's any programmers out there, you'd want to call this a data type, but it's not. It's really a pseudo data type. And that can be things like an address field or a checkbox, currencies and dates. It defaults to text area because that's a pretty common field. There are some fields in here, some types of fields that are really unique, like a relate field. A relate field lets me relate this module, in this case we're talking about contacts, to some other module. So I can relate contacts to accounts or contacts to documents. Flex relate, this gets really complex. This allows you to create a relationship between any other module and this module. So if you want to give your users the ability to flexibly relate whatever record they're creating to some other module, you can do that. Those are probably the most complicated data types or pseudo data types here, field types. The most common ones you're going to deal with would be the text area and drop downs. And I'm going to call this favorite car color. I'm going to call it number 1, because we're going to create another field called favorite car color number 2 to show you how things work together. When I leave this field, it's going to fill in the display label for me. Notice that it made this all lowercase, and it wouldn't let me put spaces in there. This is something that you've got to keep track of. It won't let you put spaces in. It'll give you an error, and it'll make everything lowercase. But it copied over my display label here, and I can change it if I want, but I'm not going to here.
Hey, Kevin?
Yeah.
Sorry, I have one quick question from Paul. What's the difference between a text area and a text field?
Ah, that's a good question, Paul. A text area, this is in HTML, if anybody has ever dealt with HTML. And a text area is just this kind of field here, like help text, for example, is a text area, whereas text field. This is a text field. A text area is what I'm expanding here. This would be a text area. Those fall right into, or come right out of HTML.
Okay, so you can make it as large as you want, and it will default to that?
If it were, right now I'm editing a text area, and notice it's got this.
Okay.
This cool. Dialog, or this text area box. A text field would be like the help text.
Okay.
I'm going to change this. I'll change this over to a text field and show you. See, it removed that dialog box. Yep. Now it's just going to be a text field, like one of these things. Here's, in fact, this is the default value. I'll stick with a text field just for ease. I'll relabel it favorite car color 1. Notice there's a system label here. You probably don't want to change that. Help text is the tooltip, the hovering tooltip. So I'll say, this is my hovering tooltip. Comments are only visible inside the studio. Most people don't even fill in comments, but I suppose it'd be a good practice to do so. And then the default value is, well, the default value. The default will appear by default. You can set the max size. For text fields, most people keep it at 255 characters. This is in characters. And then you can do some other things. These are really cool features that Sugar only recently added in the latest versions. Calculated values and dependencies. I'm not going to change this right now. I'm going to go into calculated values in a moment because I want to show you guys the basics of dealing with custom fields. These other checkboxes, is this going to be required or not? I'm going to make it not required. Is it reportable or not? Reportable just means it'll show up in reports, or you can create reports using it. Now, the audit checkbox lets you keep track of who changed it, from what, and to what. I'll show you where the audits come in a little later. I am going to make this auditable so I can illustrate that to you. And then importable, yes, that just means you can import it. Duplicates means whether you can merge them in a duplicate merge. I think the options here ought to be pretty obvious. So I'm going to create my field. And now you see that once it gets created, we've got the field in there. If I scroll down, you'll see there's a favorite car color. But it's not on a layout yet, so I actually have to add it to a layout. So I'm going to click on my Edit view and add it to a layout. Sugar's got some nice features that are, again, new in the 6.0 versions, and that's this ability to sync things to the detail view. Now, I'm not even in the latest version of Sugar, but the upcoming versions of Sugar, I think it's only in beta now, that are going to let you set these as panels or not, depending on each panel here. Is this a panel or an area? Right here, sorry, a panel or a tab. I'll show you what that means in a moment. Adding fields, custom fields particularly, to layouts is pretty easy. All you have to do is click and drag it, but you got to have a place to click and drag it to. So here's my favorite car color. And notice I've got a couple of blank rows. Blanks are indicated by the word filler. I'll just drag my favorite car color right over here and drop it. And there it is. Now, if I had this checkbox unchecked, I would have to go in and edit the detail view explicitly and add favorite car color to the detail view. But I like to leave this checked. Unless there's a good reason for you to keep your detail views different from your edit views, you probably want to leave that checkbox checked. Now, there are lots of good reasons. There could be some things, some chunks of information that everybody's got to see, but nobody ever edits. It may be information from a system that's been integrated, a third-party legacy system, or maybe it's calculated fields or something. But you probably just want to leave those on the detail view. And if that's the case, that's fine. But it adds a little extra work because then you have to go edit two separate views. For now, I'm going to leave this checked. And I'm going to leave this checked as displaying panels as tabs. I'm going to save and deploy, and that's going to deploy this layout to the current instance. Now I'm going to show you what that did. I'm going to find a contact. I like Bo Snerdley instead of me, and I'm going to open Bo in a new tab. Here's Bo's detail record, the detail view. And you can see that, lo and behold, right where I expected it, I've got my favorite car color. If I edit it, it's going to be a text field. And I can type in red and save it. Now, one of the natural things you have to think about is what type of field is important. Whenever you create a field, what type of field is important? You know, text fields are fine. They're easy. It lets people enter any kind of text. But, you know, maybe with favorite car colors, you want to be able to report on it in a certain fashion. Maybe you want to count how many people use or like red cars. Well, a text field is not going to do that very well. If you want to do counts or aggregate functions inside your reporting, maybe you need a drop-down type of field. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to make the favorite car color a multi-choice instead. Here we did it in a text, but now let's say we want it as a multi-choice. I'm going to add another field. I'm going to go back over to my fields and add a field. And this time, I'm going to select drop-down. The field name is going to be favorite car color 2. And I'll just leave these other things blank for now. And now I need to choose a drop-down. There are a lot of drop-downs that already exist. The problem is I haven't created a drop-down yet. I can use an existing one, but that's not going to have the values that I need, so I need to create the drop-down. I can go to the drop-down editor and edit it, or I can just add a drop-down here. Red. Green. Blue. So I just added red, green, and blue. I'll save that. So now I've created a field called favorite car color, related it to or connected it to the drop-down list. A good way to think of drop-down lists is imagine yes, no. Somewhere on your website, maybe you just want to keep track of yes, no answers, or gender, male or female. Well, you don't have to create separate fields every time for male, female, or separate drop-downs. You just create that drop-down once and reuse it multiple times in separate fields. In this case, I created favorite car color, and here are the values that I created. Now let's do one more thing. Let's say that instead of red, I don't want it defaulting to red. I want the default to be blank. I hit the edit, and now I can add something here. If I just hit add, it'll add a blank value, and I can click and drag the blank to the top, and that'll be the default. Sugar always, whenever you're using a drop-down, defaults to the first choice in the list. I'm going to hit save, and we'll move on. We'll move back to this screen. I don't need to do anything else now except maybe set the dependencies. Note now the dependent field isn't a checkbox, it's a drop-down. That's because in the latest version of Sugar, we can get very complex as to dependencies inside drop-downs. I won't go over that just yet because I want to cover the basics first. I'm going to hit save, and you'll see that both these tabs go away when it's done. You should also watch up here because this is going to tell you what Sugar's doing. It's done. Now I'm going to go to my layout because remember, these aren't on a layout yet. And I'm going to add favorite car color 2 right next to favorite car color 1. And if you all remember, we have to hit save and deploy. And now that I've saved and deployed it, I'm going to go back over to my contact record. I've got to refresh it, so I'm going to hit Control F5. The page will refresh, and look, there's favorite car color number 2. I'll hit the edit button so you can see what the differences are between a text field and a drop-down field. Here's favorite car color number 1, red. This is text. Oops, I spelled it wrong. That's a good reason to force people into using favorite car color as a drop-down. I'm going to hit green this time and save it. Now let's go back over to our studio, and I want to edit something. I want to get a little complex and funny here. Let's say that instead of favorite car color 1 and 2, we want to do some features about cars, but we only want those features to change, or we want the features to be dependent on what the favorite car color is. So I'm going to go back here and create another field. This is going to be another drop-down. Favorite car type. Now again, I haven't created the drop-down yet, so I'm going to have to create it here. And I'm going to add blank as a default. I'll hit save. And here's my favorite car type. I'll leave the default as blank. But this time I'm going to add a dependency. I only want this to be dependent upon other drop-downs. I can make it a formula, like if today is the first of the month, show this field, or if the contact is male, show this field, or if the contact is female, show this field. That's a formula. But in this case, I want to make my dependency based on a drop-down. It's going to ask me what drop-down. I'm going to select favorite car color 2. So now it brings up this box, edit visibility. I can say what I want my drop-down to show based on the values inside the other drop-down. It gets complex here, doesn't it? So based on the values of favorite car color 2, I can show different values for my favorite car type. This is a kind of dependency, and it's a great feature in the latest version of Sugar. So here are the values of favorite car color 2. In blank, I'm going to say nothing. But for red, I'll let them see convertibles, sedans, and coupes. For green, they're only going to be able to see convertibles and blank. I'll make it blank too. And in blue, they can only see blank and coupe. Oops, I'll rearrange that. Gives you a huge amount of flexibility. Now imagine what you can do here. You can have one field dependent on another field, which depended on another field, dependent on another field. You can have a huge cascading effect. We did a project like this for one of our customers a little over a year ago. Huge cascading effect, but we didn't have this feature inside Sugar, so we had to custom code it. Now, all this custom code can be avoided using this interface. I'll hit Save. Run over here and put this on a layout as soon as I see Done up here. I'm waiting for it to be done. There it is. I'll put it on a layout. And where is my favorite car type? There we go. Save and deploy. Now let's go back over to Bo's contact record. Hit my refresh key. Now we've got favorite car color 1, favorite car color 2, and favorite car type. I hit the edit box, and you can see favorite car type is blank, but it defaults to blank, but then I'm allowed to see the convertible choice because favorite car color is green. If I go and hit blank, oh, then it disappears. If I choose red as favorite car color, then it appears, but with a different set of values. Gosh, this is cool. Anybody else getting their nerd on like me, getting their geek on? This is great. I hope this is helping you all see the different kinds of fields. Go ahead, Sonia.
Yeah, no, it's great. And these are all reportable too, right? Unless you note that it's not reportable in the checkbox.
That's correct. You have to always specify whether or not the field is reportable. But being reportable is a default value, so most of you aren't going to get mixed up in that regard. Although I have seen customers who've unchecked that, and they can't figure out why they're not seeing it in a report.
Okay. Great.
So now I've created 3 kinds of fields that are all related. I've created favorite car color 1, favorite car color 2, and a dependent drop-down called favorite car type. I'm going to add another field here. I'm going to get into the relate fields. I'm getting into relate and flex relate too. I just mentioned flex relate. I'm not going to get into that, but I'll explain what it is when we look at the layout. I'm only going to do this as a relate now. The relate field, as I said before, lets me relate this module. In this case, I'm in the contacts module. I'm building a field in the contacts module, but it allows me to relate contacts to something else. Any record inside contact, I can relate to another record inside other fields. I'm going to relate it to the documents module. That's not an out-of-the-box relationship, so let's just say I want to put documents on the contacts page. But I can relate it to any other module here. Some of these already have out-of-the-box relationships, but you may need to duplicate it for one reason or another. So I'm going to make this field called, I'm going to call it Documents I Shared. And I'm going to make it dependent. Now, this dependency is not a drop-down, it's a relate field. So this dependency is only going to be a formulaic dependency. This gets pretty complex here too, but you got to use Sugar Logic. This will let you build Sugar Logic. Maybe we need a whole separate webinar on Sugar Logic. But in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that I only want my Documents I Shared field to be visible if one of these other fields has a certain value. As I scroll through it, I'm going to choose favorite car type, and then I need to put in a formula here. I'm going to delete this. I'm going to go find my equals, equal, and then clicking on favorite car type, and then I'm going to select the value that I knew was sedan. If I did that right, it'll let me save. If not, it'll give me an error message. So this is an OK formula. Am I losing everybody yet? I'm hitting save.
Well, and I just want to add, too, that we do have a second part, so we're going to get even deeper into advanced field customization on October 17th.
Oh, that's right.
So I know there are hidden fields and a lot of other things and calculated fields that we can dive into, but there's so much to cover. So
yeah, we'll be calculating. We'll be doing a lot more on sugar logic in that one. But I want to illustrate this. I'm going to go back to my edit view layout.
And guys, if you have questions, put them right into the questions box there.
And now I'm going to bring over this field that we just created. But gosh, I need a new row, so I got to drag it down here. And now I can drag documents I shared up. As I save and deploy, it says it's done, so I'm going to go back to Bo's record and refresh. Notice that it added an extra row, but there's nothing here because this is dependent. It's not visible yet. If I edit it, you might have seen that flash up here. The field flash up and disappeared. If I change it to sedan, well, there's the documents I've shared field. Now let's explore what the relate field does. It lets me pull up a search box to find records in a different module. Or maybe I want to share an agreements and terms. So what we've done here, real quickly, is we created a basic text field. And then, after creating a basic text field, we said, oh, that's not right. We want to create a drop-down. So we created a favorite car color drop-down field. Then we related the favorite car type to the favorite car color. And then we create a related document types field, which is related to the favorite car type and only visible when that field shows sedan. You can see here that custom fields can get really complex.
You're blowing minds here, Kevin. It's crazy.
I'm sure. Do we have any questions from our studio audience?
Well, yeah, we have one, again, from Paul. How much of this is possible in the community edition of Sugar? I don't think they have do they have dependencies?
I don't think the dependencies are available in community, although I'm not sure. It may be, I'm going to say almost all of what I've shown you is available in community, but I'm not sure that it handles dependencies the same way.
Okay. He just had a specific question. Can I open the contacts in a separate tab or browser in CE? And I'm not sure, Paul.
You mean when you're, I'm not sure I understand your question, Paul, so you're going to have to clarify that. Put that clarification in a chat box. What do you mean open it in a second window?
Yeah.
By clicking what? You can. I'm going to show you something that Paul brought up. Another data type or pseudo data type called URL. URL will let you specify, it's a URL, it will let you specify whether that URL is going to open in the same window, effectively bumping sugar out, or opening it in a different window. So maybe that's what you're referring to.
Okay, and also just, I have a little tip too when I do this. I have do you have two tabs open right now, Kev? I can't tell.
I do have two tabs.
Okay. All right, yeah, okay, never mind you doing that. I love doing that because you can go back and forth, without going out of the admin screen. You can see what your results are, so that's really nice.
Sonia Friedel, that is a great tip. If you're building stuff in the admin screen, you're right. Go and test it. You're absolutely right. It's great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Oh, and Paul, yeah, that's exactly what Paul basically is saying. Paul, I guess it depends on if, I don't know why CE won't let you do that if you don't have it hosted correctly. I guess if you have it.
No, the URL field as a data type is always going to give you the option of opening it in a second window or in an existing window. You can't open contact records in secondary windows because it's only the URL data type that lets you do that. And to open a contact record, you'd have to use the relate field.
Right.
Okay, I want to show you guys one more thing here. Do you remember when I was on the admin screen in a layout? I'm going to cancel this and go back to my edit view layout. Remember how I have this checkbox that says display panels as tabs? Well, each one of these things is a panel, and I can select it as a panel or a tab. So if I were to go back over to Bo, you'll see that these are tabs: overview, dessert information, address information, and record information. And I've got fields inside each one. My favorite ice cream flavor is there. If I come back to my admin screen and say, and uncheck this, then these are all going to be displayed as panels. I'll save and deploy, and you'll see what I mean. Notice these are all tabs, and now it refreshes, and now I'm looking at panels. In the latest version of Sugar, which I don't have running at this time, I'm using a 6.5, but an earlier version of 6.5, you're allowed to set each one of these as a panel, as a tab, and you can even set dependencies on the entire tab. If you set this as a tab or a panel, you can set the dependency. That means that it can be visible. An entire panel can be visible based on other values. We'll get into this more in our next session about custom fields.
Great.
So we've gone for about 30 minutes now. Does anybody anyone have any specific questions about custom fields?
We don't have a whole lot, so if anyone has any questions, please put them in the box right now. But it doesn't look like there are many questions going on here. I'll just, to round up, on October 17th, we'll be having an advanced webinar. So if you want to pick up on this, make sure to sign up at the end of the day for that.
And on advanced webinars, we're going to be, this advanced custom fields, we're going to be talking about other data types.
Yep.
All these other data types. And
Ooh,
also,
Kevin.
we're going to be discussing the calculated field.
Nice.
Project.
Okay, excellent. So we do have a couple questions right now, but what about the image field? What exactly, does that just let you pick an image from a file type?
That's exactly right. Lets you upload an image. Think of you want to put a person's picture in there, a headshot or a mugshot or something like that. It's not actionable. It's just a picture.
Okay, great. Greg had a question. Is this recorded? Yes. This will be up on our events page by the end of the day. So you can go on brainsell.net/events, and it will be up there at the end of the day. And Paul, you can email me. I'm not sure what your situation is, but he's just asking 2 tabs open at the same time. You can just right-click on the tab and say duplicate tab if you're in your browser, and that should do it. Or just log in twice. But you should be able to right-click and duplicate that tab. So you can email me, though, if you have any specifics.
That's a function of your browser. Not,
right.
And I'm in Firefox, so I don't have the duplicate tab, the duplicate picture. I think that's only in Chrome.
Yep. Okay, and then we have a kind of involved one from Jeff. I found that using the Distage advanced search extension will hide custom fields from being shown in the list view. You will have to expand the search layout above your list view to select those custom fields to be shown. This is only if using the advanced search extension. Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
I'm not sure what you're meaning about the advanced search extension.
Yeah, if you're talking about advanced search, just generally if you're in contacts and you can use advanced search, that might be hiding some fields when you're in advanced search. And Kevin, how do you get fields in the advanced search? That's a kind of nitty-gritty question in there.
That's a good question. We didn't cover that, but it's just like adding it to other layouts. Advanced search is just a layout. You click and drag. I'll take favorite car type and drag it in. And maybe favorite car color too. Now if I hit save and deploy, these 2 fields are going to show up in my advanced search. Back to Bo, but this time I'm going to... That interface was very much like the interface for the list view. Just clicking and dragging fields. Notice now that I've got my favorite car color, here it is, and favorite car type.
All right. Excellent. Not very cool.
Yes, it is.
Excellent. All right. Well, Jeff is talking about an enhanced search. That's neat. Okay. Well, if there are no more questions, I think we're going to just end on this, and then everyone will receive our update on our upcoming events that we have for October scheduled, some more admin stuff, so it's really exciting.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much for joining.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.